Well, the long wait is finally over. The search for the Toledo Symphony's next music director has completed, and I'm happy to say that he has joined me right here in the studio today. He's been a guest conductor with the TSO, most recently just a couple of months ago. He is from Montreal, and for the past decade, he's led one of Quebec's most important orchestras, and he may, as I understand it, be the only symphony conductor to actually have a trombone mouthpiece named after him. And I'm talking about, of course, the conductor, Alain Trudel. Welcome to FM 91.
Thank you so much.
And congratulations.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure.
Yeah, so you are the music director designate right now,
Yes.
and you'll serve in that capacity for a year.
Yes.
And then you take over starting 2018, then in the fall in that season. Zach Vassar, who's president and CEO of the Toledo Symphony, is here with me as well. He's sitting there nicely, quietly, but smiling.
Smiling very much.
So this is a bit of a coup for the symphony. Tell us about how this transpired. First, I want to ask you, Alain, you were here in April talking with me about the concerts you were conducting then. Did you have any clue at that point that you were in the running for this position?
Well, yes, we had an interview that week.
Okay.
But I didn't know where I stood and if I was in their heads and their heart. But I know that we started first rehearsal. I mean, I've been here before and it was great. But that week, just when we played, we just rehearsed the beginning of Tchaikovsky. I really had a good feeling. I said, well, you know what? Everybody's playing their heart out. And it's not, you know within 10 minutes if you're going to have a good chemistry with an orchestra. And they know if the conductor is worth giving them, their talent for that week. Because basically a conductor doesn't make any sound, right? Yeah. So they have to trust that you will take care of that talent, you will cherish it, and you will make something not only logical but inspired of it, because they give you their sound, they give you, and so it's a big responsibility.
Yeah.
And within like 10 minutes, so it was. I had a pretty good feeling.
When did you get the official word? However, did they come and say, would you consider doing this, or did they come to you and say you've been named? What do you think?
Well, during that week we have a series of interviews, and then the musicians they file out. How do you say? They fill out forms.
Post-concert survey.
Yeah, post-concert survey.
Oh, okay.
And I'd say a few weeks after that. I mean, we talked a little bit after.
We had coffee.
Yeah, we had coffee that
when
week.
you were here.
Yeah.
That's right. Before I took Alain to the airport, I sat down and had coffee with him and made sure that he was properly. Well, you had kombucha.
Caffeinated.
You didn't have caffeine.
I had kombucha.
Yeah, you had kombucha. So he had kombucha, I had coffee, and we started talking about a what-if scenario.
Ah.
And then after we received some wonderful feedback from the musicians, a unanimous vote for him as music director, we realized that we had something to talk about.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great. Oh, to have been a fly on the wall for that conversation. But as I understand it was a unanimous decision.
It was.
From everybody.
It was.
That's always nice.
It is.
Right?
It
is.
is.
When it comes to that. Now, Alain, you have been for 10 years now with the Symphonic Orchestra of Laval in Quebec. And you also have professional associations with at least 3 other organizations, and you do a lot of guest conducting and a lot of performing. Where will the Toledo Symphony fit into your schedule?
Well, there's less association with less orchestras now because you have to make decisions, right?
Right.
I've always promised myself I wouldn't shortchange any music director job I would have. So the job in Laval is nice. It's my baby for the last 10 years, but it's what we call a per service orchestra. So we play 6 masterworks and a few summer concerts, and that's it. So it's basically very manageable. The other position I will keep is at the National Symphony, which is 4 concerts because I run the series of the family concerts. And that's also manageable because it's only 4. And it's, of course, the organization of it, but it's not like, having another music directorship that takes you 20 weeks of the year. And then I'll be here. And the rest I've quit the other job, so or refused the other offers there were, because if you're going to do something like this, I mean, you have to put the time in it.
Yeah,
it's very important.
And as I understand it, you're actually meeting with a realtor here in Toledo.
Yeah, my wife is there as we speak.
Okay, well, that's good news.
Yeah,
Nice that
absolutely.
you'll have a base here in Toledo.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Have you spent much time sightseeing around the area? Have you been to the zoo or have you been to the walleyes? I guess that's an important question to
We
ask.
haven't been to the zoo yet. We really want to go. I love going to the zoo with our daughter. She's so young. She's 8 months old.
Yeah, you have a new daughter. Congratulations!
Yeah, new daughter, 8
on
months
that.
old. Fantastic. Yeah, it was a very nice artistic project as well.
Well, we don't need the details of how that transpired. But you have the zoo to look forward to.
Yeah.
You have there's some hockey going on here. Being a Canadian, I'm sure you're a hockey fan.
Yeah, and I can't
Made
wait
it to
to
the
go.
playoffs this year.
Yeah, we made it. I mean, I think we should have gone further, but that's what happens when you trade such a good player. That's
You're
PK
talking
Subban.
about your team. I'm talking about the Toledo Walleye.
Oh, yes, of course. You know what I want to do also is to take our daughter to a baseball game downtown.
Yeah,
with
Mudhens.
Oh, it's
Right.
fantastic. Oh, no, it's very exciting because it's something that's that we don't do so much. Montreal, well, we used to have a Major League Baseball team. But, it's the Olympic Stadium. It's like 50, 60,000. But just a place that's human size that you can actually, sit next to third base or something like that. Oh, no, we're really looking forward to that.
Well, back to music.
Yes.
Let me ask you, you've had some experience with the Toledo Symphony. You came here first in 2010, I believe, and then you performed most recently in April. What do you see at face value? What are the strengths of this organization and this orchestra in particular?
Well, everybody, I guess every conductor has their preferences and what they want from an orchestra. Same thing for an orchestra with conductor. But for me, what I always try to look is an orchestra that plays as a whole and that's flexible as a whole. So, for example, it's you don't have part of the players that are, we understand where the singer is going with this, and the other part of the orchestra, they're playing very efficiently, but they're kind of late on the game a little bit. What the orchestra does here, and it's probably because they play a lot of opera, is that they follow very, very well. And that, you don't need to talk, because there's nothing that, for me, that I hate more than having to stop and talk about every single move we're going to do. Here we're going to turn right, and here we're going to do this, that kind of. So, because a lot can be just said and done by your eyes, by your movement, just by the demeanor a little bit, how we relate to each other. And that, I truly got that here, and I was very excited about that, because then we can go forward. Remember when Adelich was here? By the way, yes, I finally got it,
Yes.
Adelich. I told you I'd come back and tell
That's
you
right.
exactly. And we played the Dvorak Concerto, which the orchestra had never played. It was the first time the orchestra played that Dvorak Concerto for Ireland. And we read it through, the whole thing. And it's kind of a difficult piece to get around. And I thought, we're just going to play it because I know the orchestra. They're very good musicians. They're just listening, and it's fine. So the orchestra is sitting there probably thinking, oh, I guess the conductor thinks we're a pretty good musician and we're just going to, follow up. So it's not about saying that you relinquish a responsibility of being the leader or the conductor. It's not that. It's just trusting the people you work with. Not micromanaging, getting into every stand, trying to micromanage how they're going to play every solo. No, it's just like, big picture. We're going to go this direction. And then let's see what people have to bring to the table. Like when we played the Tchaikovsky's Fourth Symphony.
Yeah.
I started the second movement. I'll just look at the oboe player, fantastic oboe player. It's okay. Well, let's go. Let's start. I'm not going to conduct as somebody's playing by themselves. I'm just going to say, so what do you bring to the table? She had this great idea, and it's something I wasn't thinking about. That at some point, there's a nice little echo, like much softer part there, and just look at the strings. And then they go, yeah, okay. And all of this are things that if you have to stop and say it to the orchestra. It's not something I'm so interested in working in an atmosphere like that. They could be very nice people, but it's not what I'm looking for. So when I came here, then we had all this communication, non-verbal communication. That's what's really exciting for me.
So you felt that right from the beginning?
Yeah, very much so. Absolutely.
I've read an interview with you where you talked about telling orchestras just to go for it.
Yeah.
Not to worry about making mistakes.
Always, yes, exactly. Yeah. Well, let's say you have 4 rehearsals. If you start the first rehearsal scared of making a mistake, that's why we rehearse. So what I'm looking for is how extraordinary can be your best playing. To do that, you need to take a chance. And that's why we have rehearsals. So as a music director, my style, and we all have different styles, but I'm not a style that will they don't need me to identify their mistakes. They're all highly, highly trained and highly experienced professional. They know. They don't need me to. Some conductor said there was a mistake there. Well, everybody says, yes, we know. So that's not why you're there. As a conductor, you're there to inspire. You're there to give a clear sense of the vision of where the work is going. And also, one thing that's very important is keep the fire burning. It's like if you're doing a fireplace, and you don't want to let the fire die down, right? So my job is to keep steering it, so the fire is always there,
Yeah.
It's always alive. And that's enough. I mean, prepare and rehearsal, yes, but in concert you need to keep that fire going. You don't need to do things that are not, how do you say, you need to be helpful to the orchestra. Mm-hmm. So what I always say is that you will never get any grief from me if you're just going for it.
Yeah,
and that's the best way, because then you can gauge by yourself. The musician can gauge. This is how far I can play. This is how I go. This is how soft I can play. How much I can take time doing this solo, and we'll see. Because the best way for me, the best analogy for that is when you have, let's say you have. And I'm not comparing them to a kid, but let's say you have your kid riding their bicycle. You take the two wheels off, for the first time. And if they see your hands on each side, they will know that they're not doing it. They're doing it, but there's a net there if there's something. If you put your hands just a little bit back, nobody sees your hand. If there's something, you can catch it. If something comes apart, you can catch. But the person is really responsible for their own success. So for me, it's if I can install a situation where everybody can be really successful and play at the best level and have fun and just be really expressive and be musicians and soloists in their own rights, then I feel pretty good about it. My job is to keep it all together and make sure we're playing the right style in the right direction. Because you can play soloist, but I don't want to put a Trudel stamp on Beethoven. Beethoven is Beethoven. I'm trying to bring it to the audience what Beethoven meant.
Well, it sounds like you're trying to discover a Toledo Symphony stamp in a way, or a Toledo Symphony sound, or you're allowing the musicians to bloom and blossom as they will under your direction, and they will bring that to all the different composers and what have you that you perform. It seems like a wonderful working relationship and a wonderful philosophy, and you're so enthusiastic about it. I can see why the players, unanimously jumped on the Alain Trudel bandwagon. Zach is just grinning ear to ear over there.
That's true.
You agree with everything I've said, I assume.
I do. And I remember being in the office during rehearsal week when you were here in April. And some of the musicians were sitting in the kitchen having a snack between rehearsals, and they were speaking about how pleasurable the experience of going through rehearsal was. And they said that you were an effective communicator with your hands, and yet you didn't waste words, so that you were doing the hard work in ways that they could interpret it immediately, and you didn't have to stop them and start them and stop them and start them.
Oh, there's nothing worse. Right. Stop and go. I mean, for a musician, it's because you don't get a sense of flow. You don't get a sense of. It's like if I'm talking to you, it's like, oh, please stop. Get on with it.
That's the way I talk all the time.
No, but I mean, it's my Star Trek Captain Kirk thing. Yeah,
Captain Kirk.
Yeah, but but seriously, you really, really need to let people express themselves. But there's some things to say, of course.
Yeah.
But you need to do a run. Like first time I worked with an orchestra, we played 10, 15 minutes, just without stopping, just to get a feel for each other. And then you know what you have to do. While you're doing that, you can size, what sections need more, need less, because it's managing all this talent in lifetime, and whereas some people, like a section might need, maybe in one section what they really need is to be left alone. Another section, what they really need is they need you a lot for something because they in a particular place, to have a cue, to give confidence, to be there, to have a clear idea of what you want, because it could be many different things. So if you're really clear about what you want in a specific place, then it transpires to the entire orchestra once they have to repeat it. There are things like that. I mean, experience is very important in those instances.
Yeah. I'm speaking with Alain Trudel, who is the Music Director Designate of the Toledo Symphony. He will be in that position for this next season. Then the season after that, in 2018, he will assume the full music directorship for a 3-year term. I'm also joined by Zach Vassar, who is president and CEO of the Toledo Symphony. Exciting news. I guess I should start calling you Maestro Trudel.
Please don't. I have a name. You can call me Alain, or you can call me Alain Trudel. But I, some people, if you like, you can do. But for me, I have no need to be called Maestro.
Yeah.
The true maestros are the composers.
Ah.
They're the geniuses. For us, we try to replicate what they wrote, and also to encourage the new genius, right? The new geniuses, like the new composers, try to get new works happening, or the ones that we don't know so well.
Well, you're a composer yourself,
I
and
try
you've
to be.
had commissions. No, I know that on your website you can go listen to some of your compositions, which I have.
Okay.
Listened to some of them as well, and they're very colorful, and there's lots of interesting sounds and things that come into these kind of miniature tone poems. It seems that most of them are, and so I'm wondering, as a composer, how does that feed into your role as a music director? Do you want to focus a little bit more on contemporary music, or do you want to does that affect how you communicate with the orchestra?
Well, I like to write music. I mean, when I have time, unfortunately, I don't call myself a real composer because it's like a writer, right? You need to write every day. But one day I will do more. But no, for me as music director, what's important is to have a balance. It's like a chef, you need to have a balanced meal. You need to have, of course, some discovery. Like the last program I was here, the last program when I was here, we had a discovery for everybody, and for me also, because it was a suggestion from the orchestra. Merwin suggested that to me. And he said, well, that Lily Boulanger piece, I knew it as a piano and violin piece. It's also a piano piece. But he said, what would you think about that? Well, the public doesn't know it. I don't know it. Let's listen to it. It's a beautiful piece. It's a great discovery for everybody. Then we discovered something from rather a well-known composer, but a work that's not, the Violin Concerto, Dvorak, wasn't played here all that much. And then we played a big Tchaikovsky symphony.
Yeah, which is like the first piece you ever conducted, right?
It's one of the first pieces. It's true. Yeah, we talked about that last time. It's so. I think this would resemble a lot of the programs I would do, because I really want to keep in mind, we must keep in mind that we are playing for the public. Mm-hmm. So, we want the public, I would like the public to trust me, but it's going to develop through the years, of course. And I propose a few things. I'll propose a few things, a few new pieces, but you need to have some pieces. Like if you ask me to try something I've never tried, like, for food, for example, well, I need to know that I'm also going to have something in my plate that I can go to and say, okay, right. that I know. If I don't like the other one, at least I'm not going to go home hungry. Right. So there will always be that. I mean, yes, I like new music. I'm a strong advocate for our music. I love American music also. Some of it is the typical, like John Adams, Corleone, the new composer, Virginia Woolf, but also pieces like everybody knows Barber's Adagio, right? Or the Barber Violin Concerto, but the symphonies, and they're not as well known. Or Bernstein, we know West Side Story, but the symphonies a little bit less. And these are the kind of things I want to celebrate. Also, well-known composer, but less known works, and of course try to get new works written for the orchestra. But that's it's important when you do that to always have a piece that people know and cherish. Mm-hmm. So there's a little relation of trust, that develops. They say, you know what, I came to hear your Dvorak symphony, or I came to hear the symphony, but you know what, I remember this new piece that was really interesting. I love to hear it again. So you were talking about that with Zach also, because you were doing a survey of that, what people initially come to hear, and at the end of the concert, what they bring back home, saying that was the most interesting or crucial point of the concert. Right. They're not always the same numbers, and that's really interesting. Yeah.
You mentioned possible commissions for the Toledo Symphony down the road. Can you talk a little bit about what you would like to bring to the symphony, where you would like to take it? I know in Laval you raised the profile of that orchestra over the past 10 years. How do you plan to raise the profile of Toledo Symphony?
Well, what's interesting here is that you have a really good orchestra, like really good. And it needs to be, I know you went to Carnegie Hall, and that's fantastic, but there needs to be a constant a constant awareness of the level of the orchestra. And I think it will snowball, because the more people are aware and the more the orchestra is under the gun, like people are watching the orchestra, we have a fan base. And I want people to know players in the orchestra. I want people to have their favorite players in the orchestra. Oh, I like this. I'm coming to hear, the bassoon player. Oh, have you heard?
It sounds like a true hockey fan talking here.
No, but I've started. I'm not here because I'm starting now, but I'll start a bunch of new initiative like I did in Laval and other places. Yeah. But in Laval, we have a thing that's called Music Maestro. And after I told you, don't call me Maestro. Anyway, we have a show in the afternoon. It's an hour long. And I talk to the people about, it's part of one of our rehearsals, but we give an hour and 15 of it. We focus on one piece. I wear a microphone, and we talk about it with the people and all that. But then I see people at the break. They come to me, the public. I go and see. We have tea and cookies with them at the break. And they meet some of their favorite players in the orchestra, and they come to me. And one guy came to me recently and said, Alain, when you told the percussion player that part has to be softer, I was waiting for you to do that, because I was hearing that. When people start to be that involved, it's really nice, because, again, you said it's like hockey. It's like, I would have done this. It's perfect. You can be how do you say Monday morning quarterback?
Monday morning.
Yeah, all you want. I mean,
right.
Because it means something to you. And also make the orchestra something that's very familiar. Like orchestral instrument, orchestral repertoire, the fact that you can go and hear a live orchestra for kids, for people in different parts of the community. I have three very important components, three pillars that I always want to hit with whatever we do is the excellence, of course, the excellence of the orchestra. So that nothing would make me happier than if people talk about the great orchestra of Ohio, and the people, yes, they are about to say Cleveland, somebody says Toledo, right?
Yeah.
Not taking anything away from the fabulous Cleveland orchestra. I'm a big fan. But, there's a place. There's a place, and there's a quality that will keep developing. But the three pillars are that, excellence, education for me, and the community. And they're all related together. And all the projects I want to do must hit those marks.
Yeah. We talked about your interest in education last time that you were here, and you have very specific, strong ideas about bringing education not only to the community, but also to young musicians and fostering in them these musical principles that you've been talking about. Now, TSO, as Zach will attest, has a very strong educational component as well. And do you see yourself as an active participant in what they're doing?
Absolutely. It was one of the things that was very appealing to me. I mean, to conduct an orchestra, to be a conductor of an orchestra is one thing. To be a music director is another thing, right? So I have the two. You need to have the two of them that live inside of you to do a good job at this. Because a conductor, is like a violinist or a pianist. They have a certain repertoire they want to play. They have favorite pieces and they want to program, and that's And that's great, but it's not so useful as for the rest of the job of music director. It can actually get in the way, because you can't just always do what you want. I mean, sometimes you have to remember there's other people around you. There's and for me that's important. I think the reason why it's important is because I started playing in a community band, brass band actually. I come from a very modest background. We didn't have money for an instrument. We didn't have money for music lessons. Basically didn't have much money. Yeah. But in my area where I lived, in Montreal, there was a band that started that it was a brass band, kind of a hybrid of a brass band. And the people who led it were not musicians. One was a policeman, one had an ice cream shop, but they loved music and they all studied an instrument at some point. But they said, we're going to do something for the kids in our neighborhood. So it brings, first of all, the level of how could I say, teenagers, when they're not busy, they find ways to be busy. And not always the best ways.
Yeah.
So it brings the level of that down. And also, when you're able to play an instrument, like, for example, I always take the violin as an example because it's so horrific the first time you play a violin. It's like you're scratching the nails on a board, a blackboard. If you're able to take that as a kid and bring it to a level where you're decent enough to play little pieces with piano, I don't think anything else is much harder to learn in life. Seriously, law, medicine, it takes so much focus and concentration to learn that. So we can do so much good by having as many children or as many people not just children, learning to play an instrument, learning music, learning to sing in a chorus. And I want to create opportunities in the orchestra for those people to join us once in a while.
Yeah.
We can have a day, the Toledo Symphony Music Day, where we join with all the amateurs and all the kids, and we play like, I don't know, we play like Carmen Suite or something that's within reach, of some amateur players. And we all play together. And this is important because once you're able to do this task from A to Z, learn to play an instrument, or even A to B, it's difficult enough, then you're pretty set in life for learning.
Yeah, and what a sense of accomplishment it brings young people to do that, and a sense of discipline as well. There's so many things to be said for education, and it's something that, it seems that the private sector or the nonprofit sector especially has had to shore up. So it's great to hear you talking about that and wanting to invest in that as well. You mentioned a little bit about playing the trombone when you were young. Last time you were here, you told me the trombone chose you.
Yes, true. A good memory. That's
yeah. Yeah, well, I went back and listened right before we...
Okay.
But, which I thought was interesting. Of course, you're known as a virtuoso trombonist. That was really the source of your fame, I think, as much or more so than a conductor early on in your career. Go back and tell me again how you got a mouthpiece named after you. I mentioned that at the very beginning because I saw it it caught my eye in the press release talking about you. But what were the circumstances of that?
Well, as you said, I became quite famous as a trombone player earlier in my career. Won a few competitions, play with concertos with orchestra. I mean, it's not something that trombone players did a lot, especially back then. It's challenging, because you don't have a Sibelius concerto, you don't have a 5 Beethoven concertos for piano.
Yeah.
So there's a certain repertoire, there's a certain appeal. But, I've always believed that the instrument is... it's not necessarily the message, right? It's a way for the messenger to live, to deliver a message. So if it's musically, there's some emotion that you want to convey. Well, if you have a good piece, then maybe something written for you. And if you play your instrument at the level high enough that you can communicate, not just play notes, but communicate, then there's a place for you. So for me, I was lucky enough to that my efforts were, because a lot of people make the effort, but sometimes very few of them are, get to a good level. And it's not necessarily, a lot of it is luck. But I would say most of it is hard work. Yeah. And people don't imagine sometimes 20-hour days exist, and 20-hour days of work. I mean,
Right.
And that's I've done many of those, not playing only, but, working at our craft and working at our business. And it's very important. You have to work super hard, all the time. So anyway, I was playing all around the world, and I've played a Yamaha instrument for most of my career. And the company after a while said, well, you're one of the marquee trombone players in the world. It's like sportsmen when they have running shoes named after them.
Yeah.
So they said, well, for the people who play trombone everywhere, maybe Yamaha decided to do a series of signature mouthpieces.
Nice.
So they picked a person for each, one or two. Trombone at that time was one. I have a few more than the last few years, but when I had mine, I was the first one. When they had trumpet, they had two. They had Alain Trudel, he's really well known, American trumpet player, and they had Roger Bobo on the tuba, was a great master. He used to play Los Angeles Philharmonic, and they asked me for the trombone. So we spent 3 years doing experiments. Whenever I'd be close to Tokyo, traveling, I would go, we'd try, and sometimes I would just fly to do that. And finally we got one that really, was to my liking. I tried to do something that everybody can play also. So it's not so specific that only one person can play it, and then it's so
this
custom.
Wasn't just for you. It was for production, right?
Yes, for production.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, they have, a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
And, so once we found the right one, you can go and buy in a store, music store, Alain Trudel mouthpiece.
Yeah. Do people ever ask you to sign them for you?
Well, it's funny because it's a signature model, so it's made like a signature a little bit. So, but usually you play a 5 or a 6, but you can just play the name now. So
don't put a little picture of engraved on the.
Alain has a rather complicated signature. That'd be.
I could have been a doctor if it was just a signature.
Yeah. Nice. Well, it's wonderful that you're here and that you've managed to take the time or that you've offered up the time to come and talk with me about this, because I know a lot of our listeners are also concert goers to the symphony, so it's important to provide a venue for them to learn a little bit more about you. Now, you'll be back here next season conducting, conductor Alain Trudel, the new music director, I should mention, of the Toledo Symphony. You'll be here next season conducting, Symphonie Fantastique, I believe.
Yes.
And some other
a beautiful program of
well.
Symphonie Fantastique, and also a program of Mozart concertis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we've added a little wind serenade in there. It's a thing I want to do with the orchestra also. It's a way to present the different sections of the orchestra, but, still keeping it in Mozart for that program.
So now, are you guys talking about future programming plans already?
Oh, yes.
Spelling all that out?
Yeah.
You want to tease us with anything or no?
One of my favorite emails I got from Alain when he was supposed to be on vacation, and it came in with, I think, 7 programs sketched out, which I was very excited about. There's one about destiny that I was very excited about because it featured a Beethoven Symphony No. 5, which fits with the destiny idea, but he paired it with the Shostakovich Cello Concerto.
Huh.
And I can't guarantee that we'll do this, but I love the idea of both of these pieces, which have their own sense of destiny, different types of destiny, but a theme that I think we can really lean into and inspire the audience to think about destiny in different ways. Yeah. One more triumphant, one more perhaps terrified.
Yeah. Interesting. Now, hopefully nobody else will steal the idea that we put it out there.
The nice thing about classical music is that we can steal all ideas.
Right. And it's fine.
That's
it's
right.
great.
If Cleveland wants to do that program, go for it.
The more the merrier. You heard it here first, friends. Well, good luck on your endeavors with the symphony and also with house hunting that I know is going on. Mm-hmm. And congratulations again on your new daughter as well. I guess I'll leave it with you if you have anything else that you want to say to the concert-going public here in Toledo. I know you're excited to jump right in and start doing things, but what would you like to say to our folks at home?
Well, first I'd like to say thank you for welcoming me to your community. I also want to say that, you will always have a home with the Toledo Symphony, a place where when you have a day where you worked really hard at the office, when you're a little tired, when you need to go somewhere away from the world, your cell phone won't be ringing, you won't be have to answer a bunch of email, come back to, craftsmanship values, and you can spend 2.5 hours with us, sometimes less, sometimes more, depending on the program. But we always have you, the public, the listeners, at heart when we do our programming. So we're doing this for you, and we can't wait to see you. And if you come to the concert, try to come and say hi.
Great. Conductor Alain Trudel. We can't say Maestro Alain Trudel, but I guess maybe I can say it. The new music director designate of the Toledo Symphony Orchestra just been announced. He's taking over not this next season, but the season after that. So he'll be designate, and then he'll be music director proper after that for a 3-year term. And again, wonderful to speak with you. I know that you listen to Vermont Public Radio, where you are in Quebec. But now you're going to have to start listening to us on the internet, right?
Oh, absolutely,
WGTE.
Yes.
And I hope that you'll come back often. And
we'll do a little quiz.
Yeah, exactly. and talk about all of your endeavors with Toledo Symphony.
Super.
So again, congratulations, Alain Trudel. Congratulations to Zach Vassar on this as well. Wonderful future ahead in store for the Toledo Symphony and the folks in our area.
Thank you.
Thank you.